Hello again, Misfits. It's time for another 1-minute review, and today we're looking at Fractured Sky. Now, I was stoked when I heard about this game. We actually got kind of a little preview, sort of a interview preview about what the game was going to be about at Ivy Studios, one of our favorite studios actually. And they kind of gave a good bit of a rundown, and I was super excited to get our hands in it. Now they sent us a copy again, and thanks very much, guys, for this retail copy actually. So right now we were actually got our hands on this to be able to play it, and it's a retail copy, so it doesn't have maybe all the spiffs of the normal version, but this game is awesome. Now I'll go into a little bit of how the game plays, but first, I'll kind of give you the general rundown. Now, the game is all about a very, very tight point-based system. Now, you really only get points in two ways in this game. You either get it on objectives or on locations that you kind of wage this little mini war on. And it's all just point-based stuff. So you have your tokens, you have your blob of tokens here, and in the base game they have fancy ships and everything. But for this, we just have these tokens. And you can spend up to 10 points worth of tokens, and the tokens come in multiple numbers. The only ones you have duplicates of, though, is 0. So it makes it very interesting because the way you get the points in this game, they're called starfalls, is by winning these locations where starfalls are at. Now, as you go along in the game, you get this tense race going on because starfalls start dropping in multiple different areas, or you know where they're going to drop. So what ends up happening is you have to kind of divvy these 10 points up. And you're like, well, do I drop all 10 points and win one starfall here, but I'm sacrificing other areas where I'm not taking anything? Or do I weaken all of my point total in all the areas, possibly losing all of the areas? Now, there are other things you can do in this game to help with that. You could build little skimmers, which add point buffers. You build little towers, which are point buffers. But then you also have to figure, okay, wait, what is this building and things you got going on? You get resources in this game. And that's another big part of the game because not only are you vying for starfalls, but you're also vying for resources. You need resources to build these other towers and skimmers and to do other little things in the game, which can make a huge difference. I mean, we have literally a fraction of a 1 point making a difference between you winning an area or not. Sometimes not even that, because sometimes you have to go by even turn order. And it's just that one little thing that can make all the difference in the world. And it makes for a very interesting game. So you not only have that aspect, but you have a little bit of luck aspect that you can mitigate. So the game has these different card rows, and you have objectives, which immediately give you a starfall if you meet or if you win the objective. And they're very clear-cut objectives. They're like have the most point in an area or have least of this. It could be anything. You have one starfall that's known, and then you have the rest are hidden. But as you go along in the game, more and more are added that are hidden. And you can spend these resources that you get from winning these areas to peek at these cards, letting you know what objectives you're going to face or where starfalls are going to pop up at. So it creates this really interesting tension because you're fighting for different areas not only to win starfalls, but you're also trying to get resources. Because the thing is, if you win an area, you get the starfall, but you don't get any of the resources, which I thought that was interesting, man. I mean, the fact that you are getting points, but you're kind of setting yourself back a little bit because you can get a point, but then you're getting no resources out of it, and that turn can hurt you a lot because next turn, I was surprised myself. I played a game very aggressively, and then I found that I wasn't getting resources. I was winning the one surefire starfall and relying on luck for the others, and it was putting me behind because I would get one maybe every round, but everybody was peeking at cards and playing it slow, and next thing you know, they're getting 2 or 3 starfalls around because they know where they're going to pop up at, and if you know when one's going to pop up at and no one's there, guess what? It's a free point for you. It is a very, 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 very interesting, very solid, very creative game. Just the amount of bluffing, just the amount of guesswork that's involved, but also the fact, and I thought this was the most interesting, and from our practice game, we played a practice game here in the studio before we actually did our own video of the playthrough, but I tried a strategy early on, which was like, I thought a surefire way to kind of get me ahead, and it worked in our practice. And then Tom, figured it out, like what I was kind of doing. And so the second game we played, thankfully we messed it up, but he immediately figured out kind of what I was doing and started working around that and completely undermining my strategy. So that is an interesting aspect of this game because no one strategy is a surefire win. One thing you do might work that minute, but as soon as somebody figures out what you're doing, they're going to start playing around you and dancing around you, and you're like, oh, I have to completely change what I'm doing. So that makes the game very, very, very fluid, very social, very interactive, and that is really what I love about this game. That is really an excellent aspect of the game, and I think that really, I want to say, I think that is the mark of an Ivy Studios game, wouldn't you say?
A unique way of playing a game.
It's a unique, well, not just unique, but also interactive. There isn't a IVU Studio game where you're playing solitaire, where you're not interacting with the players around you in some fashion. Even their more solitary game, a Mystic Mischief, you're still interacting heavily with the player because it's kind of a versus game. So you're back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. There isn't a single game where you plop down and you go, I'm just going to build my map or play my cards and do my thing. Every game personifies playing as a community with your friends because you're constantly warring with each other. Even in and of course in one of our favorites in Moonrakers, you have to get with people to play the game. You can't just do. I mean, granted, they do make the games for solo modes. I want to be honest, I haven't tried the solo mode out. I'm sure it's probably good, but I think a hallmark of their games and good design on their part is these games are meant to be played with people and to be interactive with people. This game's a knockout for them, honestly. And I think they went on record, maybe in our interview, but I know they said this is one of their best games. I think that's unfair. I think all of their games are really, really, honestly, equally good. This is great. I don't think it's any better or worse than a lot of their other games. It's just kind of almost another way to have a game that's very interactive. But I mean, I don't know what it is about this game. I really, really, really did love it. And I really liked it, and I wanted to play more when we were done. I'm like this. And it plays very fast. It's another thing about Ivy Studio games. It plays very fast. It doesn't get bogged down. Like, their games do not get bogged down at all. You move and move and move. Yeah, I'm gonna give this a 5 out of 5. Honestly, I love this game. It was a lot of fun. Now, mind you, this is the retail version. I'm sure I will gush more about the Uber edition because it has little magnetic airboats that you're dropping the tokens with. Everybody's got their own trays. It's way more pretty looking. And not that this is necessarily ugly. It does its job well and it functions in the game itself, plays no differently and just as well. Definitely perfect gameplay, but if you want that extra, that extra punch. And it's funny because a lot of their games don't even have a basic version. They kind of wanted to get a more basic version for the people that, didn't want to have to spend a lot more money. But this is definitely one of those games that I think does benefit from the minis. I think having the airships and everything adds a little bit more panache, adds a little bit more flair to the game,
It's got flair.
It's got flair.
It's definitely flair.
It's got flair. It's like Rome. You could play Rome, but you want to see the big buildings. I played this. I loved it. But man, I want to see you have my magnetic drops from my airships and have my cubes and all that other and seeing the towers. Like the towers are these little cardboard things and it's cute and all, but they have actual mini towers. So yeah, that definitely will make a difference as far as that goes. But very solid game from IVU Studios, another knockout winner from them. You can't honestly go wrong with either edition, but if I were you, I'd spend the extra money and get the Uber edition because that just kind of raises it above. Kind of like the same with Moonrakers and all those other games where you only really have one edition. You have all the pretty already involved. Get the good edition of this, especially if you're a fan. Thanks, guys, for joining me for another review. Check this out. You will not be unhappy. It's making its rounds right now around the circuit. Definite knockout winner for these guys, and I'm so excited to see what else they come with in the future. But honestly, we're going to be playing this probably for a while before they even get around to announcing another game. So thanks, guys, for joining me again for another one review. Of course, don't forget to like, subscribe. We will have some info below. And of course, as always, guys, and especially guys at IVU Studios, game on.